Takes a second. And we are live. Good morning, everyone. Today's a very interesting day because I'm with Ali, and Ali is kind of interviewing me on my channel. I'm part of, we're going to have a chat anyway. He has some very, very good opinions to air and view. Ali's in Melbourne, where the sun is shining and it's very warm. I'm here in Zhongshan, where it's a little cooler. Today is going to only be about 20 degrees today. What have you got there, Ali?
Around 27 degrees.
27, much cooler than before.
It's much cooler than before. Tomorrow's going to be around 20 something. So tomorrow's going to be better also.
Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. So what are we going to talk about today?
I think let's start with how's your day been so far?
Well, for me, it's 8 a.m. I got out of bed at 7 a.m. and the first thing to do is make myself a coffee, and that's my day so far. Made a coffee and chat with you.
That's good.
How about you?
That's good. I mean, it's around 11 a.m., 11:01 a.m. So it's okay for me. Yeah, I woke up early as well.
You work until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning some days, right?
Yeah. I've been trying to get some stuff done.
What are you doing?
Well,
can you share that? Was it secret?
I mean, I can share it briefly. I mean, it's going to bore your viewers. I'm trying to set up my own robotics startup. So yeah, let's see how far do I go with that.
Well, let's assume that my audience is the same as your audience. They're not bored by a robotics startup. What does that mean?
So I'm trying to look into bionic prosthetics for amputees, both arms and legs. Yes. Mm-hmm. And also the dexterity of how a normal hand moves, So mm-hmm. A normal hand has a lot of degrees of freedom. The wrist can move this way, so rotate, it can go back and forth, it can tilt as well. And then all fingers have at least 4 or 5 degrees of freedom in addition. So degree of freedom would be, you've got one joint here, you've got second joint here, and a third joint here. So that's 3 degrees of freedom. Plus a finger can do this. That's 4th degree of freedom. When you have to open a jar, the finger would rotate in this way.
Right.
So that sort of, you can say it's sort of like 5th degree of freedom. So every finger, and a thumb, they have their own degrees of freedom. Plus you combine it with the hand movement, so you get a lot of degrees of freedom. But it's very difficult to replicate that in robotics without increasing the cost of hardware. So I'm trying to look into making dexterous hand more cost effective. Yeah.
Wow. So for that finger, I won't go the other one. That finger, you've got a motor that goes that way. Can the motor rotate and the motor go that way?
No, I mean only if so the problem is the limitation of hardware at this point, and also how big the hand needs to be and how heavy the hand can be.
Of course, for children it would be very different, wouldn't it?
Correct. So I mean, if the hand can do this, that's good enough. Let's say if I want to grab my mouse, I can grab it like this. I can rotate my wrist like this, and I can even grab my mouse.
Scroll the mouse wheel?
Yeah. So that's basic. So that should be okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Good luck with that. And you're coming to China soon.
Yeah, I need to explore, what kind of hardware technology they have over there, because Australia doesn't really produce anything over here. So you either have to go to Germany to get the parts, or to see what parts can be used or what parts need to be manufactured, or you go to China and see what they have and see if you can design your own parts to fit in a hand. Yeah.
Okay, so when you come to China, let's meet up and see if we can have a meal or something together. You'll be in Shenzhen and Hangzhou?
Yeah, that's where I plan to go. I think that's what I've been told. That's where most of the technology hub is.
Yeah, my brother-in-law's in Shenzhen right now. He lives in Australia too, in Brisbane. or near Brisbane. He lives in Redcliffe, and he's in Hangzhou for 7 days now. But I'm not going to get up to
Right.
see him, and unfortunately, he doesn't have the time to come and see us.
Right.
But Shenzhen is only an hour away, so if you're in Shenzhen, we'll definitely catch up, and maybe we'll do something live. I don't do that very often. Very rare for me to do something live. We can put something actually live when we're both in the same room. I mean, I do live. We're live now, but I've very rarely sat down with someone and actually made a video live. In fact, I don't know
Right.
if I've ever done it on my own. I did it with Fernando once, Fernando Munoz Bernal, when he had the camera all set up and said, "Let's do this." So we did that together. Yeah.
That's good.
So we were going to talk today because you have an interest in China, of course, outside of your robotics, and the reason you and I got together first of all was to dispel some myths about China,
Correct.
and yeah, we've got some really interesting things going on around the world now. I'm watching the Epstein files unfold before us and unfurl. That's right. They're it is just getting deeper and deeper. And Britain has had its first loss of an important person, the former ambassador to the United States, former deputy. Well, I don't know if he was deputy leader, but a very influential member of the Labour Party, Peter Mandelson, and he's been anointed a lord. So these are the House of Lords in the UK. For anyone who doesn't understand what this means, the House of Lords is a group of people who are unelected. Now, some of them have been elected in the past, and he's one example. He used to be a member of parliament, but nobody in the House of Lords is elected except by other members of the Lords. So when Britain says we have a full democracy, this is something that they kind of forget to mention. They have this upper house, like Australia has the Senate. The UK has this upper house called the House of Lords. And many of the people in there, not all of them, it used to be all of the people in there were born to the role. Now there's only 50 or 60 of them that are born to the role. So they're hereditary lords and sometimes dames or ladies. So once you get into the House of Lords, you can't be removed. It's a bit like the Supreme Court in the UK. You can't be taken out. You die in your seat, basically, or your seat is there until you die. So they're now exploring a law to see if they can take away. They're going to make a new law because this guy Peter Mandelson is so he's disappointed so many people that now they're saying, well, we made him into a lord, and now we're going to have to take that away from him. But they're going to have to create what they're going to call the Mandelson law. But in Australia, it's starting to come unwound as well. There's people in Australia being mentioned in the Epstein files. Are you following it?
Not, not with interest. I mean, I already know there are many people who will be in the files, and not much is going to be done about it anyway. So it's their culture, as I see it. It's frowned upon, but I think it's accepted in their culture to do things like that. And this has been
Mm,
going on since early 2000s. There were reports made to FBI, reports made to local police, but nothing was done. And I even heard that some of the district attorney generals were friends with Epstein, and they didn't do anything. So it's been
wow.
going on for quite some time. And even after he was convicted in, I think, 2010, 2011, something like that. And when he came back, people were still lining up to be his friends and go to his house. So I
Yeah.
think it's okay for them to do these kind of things, I guess.
It seems to be at a different level to the rest of the world. Imagine if we were meeting people, you and I, the cops would be right on top of us. Um, there is a really interesting aspect with Clive Palmer, who's I think he's a billionaire, very anti-China billionaire, who has, I mean, he's written a book that's anti. In fact, he didn't write the book. He got a guy called Alex Joske to write the book for him. But effectively, he puts his name onto a book about how China is a great big threat. Alex Joske worked for ASPI for a while. I'm not sure what he does nowadays, but he wrote an article which was related to Chinese students going around the world and reporting back to the Chinese military. So he wrote an article for ASPI on this, and both Australia, UK, both Australia and America changed their laws so that students couldn't have an affiliation with the United States, with the Chinese military, in order to study there. So I mean, they're really closing down a very, very large component, because let's be honest, the military are the people who have pretty much most of the money, particularly in the West, most of the money to do most of the research. So you don't want to be cutting them out. And the universities all said the same thing. All the universities said, we've got no evidence that this is true. To the best of our knowledge, every single person that comes here adds to our not takes from our research. They add to our research, particularly the Chinese. They're brilliant at what they do. But yeah, Clive Palmer, it seems, spent $60 million at Steve Bannon's suggestion to try and change the political scene. Now, if I come across and say, hey, I think, and I have already been warned about this, if I personally, who has no influence, no money whatsoever, a few savings, but I'm not talking about the same league, I could not raise 1/millionth of what Clive Palmer has in the next 10 years. And if I come across and I start talking about China, they will lock me up for being an agent of foreign influence, unregistered. Now, what the hell is Clive Palmer doing still walking around when this kind of information, that $60 million was spent at the urging of Steve Bannon, an American, wealthy American who has influence, at that time had influence over Donald Trump, and is still walking around after trying to influence Australian political scene. What's going on over there?
I think, first of all, Australia doesn't really have its own foreign policy. So it does whatever America tells it to do. Second, I made a video a while ago on my channel discussing exactly this, Steve Bannon's threats or perceived threats, or perceiving China as a threat, and saying that the trade war that Trump has initiated is going to destroy China. All the trade routes will be routed around China, and China will be isolated. And he made that comment way back in 2020 and then 2022 as well. So I'll provide a link to that video later, but in which I discussed that was a flawed strategy from America, and it has actually spurred the growth of China and Chinese innovation. So he's been making those threats for quite some time now, but none of them have ever materialized. Second, they haven't turned out the way he expected the trade war to turn out. So I don't know how he became the VP of Goldman Sachs. Don't think he has any brains. I mean, anyone can see that tariffs is not an economic policy. Tariffs are a tool that you use as part of your economic policy. So it would have been better to work together with China to, even if they had some concerns, it would have been better to work with China. But China is not the China of 1970s or 80s. China is huge. They are mostly independent from energy point of view. And when you talk about energy, it's very important because the next race is AI race, and AI takes a lot of energy. So China produces energy probably at 1/5 the cost of what America and Europe produces. So the AI technology from China will be very cheap compared to what America could produce. Europe doesn't really have any AI technology at all, so they're dependent on America for that. So yeah, and in Australia, like I told you, there were articles that there is Chinese police, secret Chinese police in Australia, rounding people up and taking them to secret location and torturing them. I'm not sure what kind of truth or evidence is there, but seems like
There's never any evidence.
most of it is coordinated. Because when I was a student, I mean, we had Chinese friends, Chinese colleagues, so they were all pretty good. Melbourne is full of Chinese and Asian people, so yeah, they all. I mean, every suburb has Chinese people. Yeah.
You still, because you supervise some Chinese students still, right?
I do, yeah.
through.
So I'm a STEM mentor for master's and PhD level students at Melbourne
Okay,
University. Yeah,
when
so
you do this, you should ask your students, "What's your social credit score?" And they will just laugh at you
they
about this. What? My what?
they don't have,
You've
yeah,
already
they
tried
don't have
this.
that
You,
system. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
you should also ask them who's your handler in the Ministry of State Security, because obviously when you're in Australia, you must report back to the Ministry of State Security, right? And they'll just what they're talking about. There is not a single student. I mean, I know thousands. Literally, I have sent thousands of students from China to foreign countries, and if I ask them this question, the answer is always the same. What are you talking about?
yeah,
Why are you asking me these stupid questions? They do not have this same kind of perception that the West has of Chinese students at all. They're just kids
yeah,
going overseas to study. Some of them are going over because they're brilliant and they're looking for something else, and some of them are going over because they're not so brilliant and their parents can afford something else. So there's a difference between the levels of students. They're either not very good students, which is quite true of a lot of Chinese students overseas, or they're brilliant students and they are really useful to the academic community. So that's an interesting thing. So I'd appreciate some feedback on that when you're talking to your Chinese students about whether or not they report to the Ministry of State Security. And there's one other aspect, of course, about these police stations. Many people don't know this. I made a video a long time ago about the secret police stations. The start of this came from a guy called Peter Darlin. Peter Darlin uses he is the head of an NGO called Safeguard Defender, and Safeguard Defender exists. It's created in Spain. Peter Darlin is Swedish. He was in China working as a lawyer in China for an NGO, and he got arrested because what he was doing was actually he was a spy, and he confessed to being a spy. And because he confessed and he admitted what he'd been doing, instead of charging him and putting him into a Chinese prison, which is what they do nowadays, they just deported him. And the moment they deported him, of course, after he had done this admission of guilt, he immediately starts up outside of China. He's never going to be allowed back into China. And I guess that there's some kind of sanction or some kind of restriction on him. He won't be allowed back into China, I'm sure. But that's what Peter Darlin is. And that's where this came from. And so far to this day, I think two people were arrested in New York. Neither has ever been charged, as far as I'm aware. Neither has been convicted, as far as I'm aware. Now, there may be some people can prove me wrong on that, and I'm happy to be corrected. But Canada's the same thing. Australia's the same thing. There is no evidence whatsoever that this has ever happened. There are only allegations and accusations.
yeah. The problem is the media over here is they don't present any evidence, and I've seen that firsthand. I'll send you a video after this, and it's a very revealing video. It was when I first came to Australia many years ago, and that video was very revealing how they treat other people, or how they treat people that they don't want to be friends with, and how they spin stories. So 60 Minutes, or I think SBS, uh, they sort of did the investigation on how Channel 9, Channel 7, and all these other channels twist or fabricate or manipulate the statements, or or entice actions from people that they want to antagonize, and uh, probably not propaganda, but they want to project in a bad way. So they do all these kind of actions.
Mm,
Uh, so I mean, it's a short clip. It's probably 2 minute long clip. I'll send you this the clip after this
right.
conversation. But no evidence has been presented on police
There never
stations
will
over
be any
here.
evidence. There never will
Yeah,
be. So
no evidence.
actually,
Obviously, spying occurs, and everybody spies on everybody. We all know that.
yeah.
Even Alan Dershowitz said that Israel spies on America, and it's nothing new. So, you know, and there have been many CIA agents, ex-agents, John Kiriakou and other, who have said that even the White House is bugged constantly. and regularly by Israeli Mossad agents. So
I saw
it's
an
nothing
interview
new.
with a CIA guy, and I can't remember who it was. He said every time Mossad came to visit us, we had to sweep the building several times, and we always found something. They always left something there, and if they left a gift, you just took it out the back and threw it away because you knew it was bugged. Have a
That's
look at
correct.
BrainCo in
Yeah,
Hangzhou.
no, I know BrainCo. I know BrainCo,
Okay,
and I know their bionic prosthetic. Uh, so
okay,
it's a good prosthetic. Yeah, it's
yeah.
and if the cost can be
Is yours
brought
going to
down,
be
it
better?
will be handy. Not sure. I mean, I'm trying to explore something new. So let's see if it pans out this way or not, or if I
Mm,
can make BrainCo type, uh, product cost effectively. That will be better. I mean, it will be better for people and children who can't really afford $10,000, $15,000 or $100,000 prosthetic.
what is
Uh,
brain cortide?
BrainCo is a company, Chinese company.
Yeah,
They produce prosthetics. Yeah.
but did you just mention brain cortide? Is that a
No,
product?
BrainCo.
Oh,
BrainCo.
brain. Okay, all right.
BrainCo
Sorry.
is
Yeah.
the company, and they produce bionic prosthetics.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
prosthetics, is this the one? I might have seen this one. It actually connects through your nervous system to your actual brain. So it's
Mm.
not,
At this
it's
point,
not,
no, it's non-invasive, so it basically takes electrical signals. So let's say if I flex my arm like that, that's flex, that's
mm,
extension. So what it
mm,
does is it recognizes whether you're flexing or you're relaxing. It takes electrical
okay.
signals. You have electrodes over here, and then through coding, you train the bionic prosthetic that if it's a flex, just grab something, close your
Mm,
wrist. If it's extension, just release it, and then different movements like this, rotate your wrist or rotate your finger, move your finger, something like this. So
mm.
that's how it works. They are invasive one as well, which connect directly to your system, nervous system. I mean, if people want to go down that route, that's probably better, I guess. But again, expensive.
Yeah, yeah. So in the future, will people who have had amputations actually be able to feel anything
At
when
this
they grab?
point,
Will they?
uh, you through nervous system, I think you
Mm,
can manipulate the technology that it sends signals that, um, for example, this glass is glass and it has a different feel, whereas this pen with a silicone grip has a different feel. So you can
mhm,
manipulate that, but you need a lot of sensors in your fingertips. So at the moment, most of these bionic prosthetics, either they don't use force sensors. Force sensors are basically small sensors on the tips that detect the force that you are gripping with.
right.
Because first, they're expensive. Second, they need maintenance so they can break. Uh, you have to add more and more sensors to your hand or to your fingertips to detect something like this. So it's
Mm,
basically creating an artificial skin. So in future,
yeah.
maybe they create a skin that already has all these sensors. At the moment, it's really difficult. Again, the cost goes up. That's the thing.
Mm. Let's go back to what we were discussing before. Where is China going? Oh, sorry, where is Australia going with its new hate speech laws,
I haven't been
anti-hate
paying
speech laws?
yeah, I haven't been paying attention to the laws because I mean, at the end of the day, they're not going to side with I think Palestinians or China, I guess.
Mm,
But I mean, we've been observing for quite some time. There have been many Australian Palestinian events that have been cancelled. Uh, Chris Hedges, Pulitzer Prize journalist, his event was cancelled last year. He was due to come to Canberra to give a talk, but then they found out that he is pro-Palestine, so they cancelled his event. Uh, I think Victoria Library over here cancelled events, Palestinian cultural events,
mm,
2 or 3 cultural events as well. So I mean, these things are normal over here. The idea is to probably hide what's happening in Palestine, the genocide, and present Israel in a positive way. So I think that's the idea. So
mm.
not sure. I mean, if
In,
the laws are can protect everybody, then it's okay. But if they protect one uh, group, then probably they are biased laws, I guess.
In
And
New
they
South
canceled that
Wales,
Palestinian professor as well from
yeah,
that Writers Week festival, which was a really big thing for us, for a country like Australia. And that's, I mean, if I was in CNN or MSNBC, I would have framed that news as a misogynistic, or minister cancels a pro-feminist, poet, something
yeah,
like that. I
it
made a
was
dash.
actually the Premier's request. The Premier said it was nothing to do
Yeah,
with him, but this happened. The
yeah,
Premier of South Australia requested the Adelaide Writers' Week to cancel a Palestinian writer,
yeah.
and they did. And then so
But she's
many of
Australian. That's the thing. She's Australian with Palestinian
yeah,
heritage.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing. And she's a female. So,
Mm.
that's how they suppress people over here, I guess. And the entire event got cancelled. So, because
Wow,
Giannis Varoufakis pulled out, and he's very good when it comes to
a big name.
genocide, colonialism, all these kind of things. And many
Mm.
prominent writers pulled out in support of that support of her. So, yeah,
It
that
ended with
event.
the Writers' Week being cancelled,
Correct, and
which was actually a shame
it's
for
bad reputation. So that's what I don't understand. I mean, Australia is willing to ruin its own reputation to hide the genocide or to not allow people talking about the genocide. Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's why I
very
say Australia
interesting.
doesn't really have its own foreign policy. Yes,
Yeah, because the Darwin port has just been announced that it's going back to Darwin. The Darwin port is going to be taken away from Landbridge, which is a
correct.
Chinese company. That company has a 99-year lease, which is 10 years old, about 10 years. And what's that going to cost Australia? Because for sure, this is a political decision, not a security decision. It's political for sure, because there is no danger of a Chinese. Because even the CEO of Darwin Port is an Australian. He's a former uh, Royal Navy captain or commander, Commodore, I think he was, in the Royal Navy, the Royal Australian Navy. So this is a guy who runs the port, who really ought to be trusted. He's running the port. He says quite clearly there's never been any interference from anything other than, I do my meetings, I get my instructions from the CEO, but I'm the CEO of the port. I run the port my way, the way the port needs to be run. And it's now to profit. When he needs something, he contacts the company. If he needs something to spend, he needs something to buy. He's running the port in a way that the port is supposed to be run, and it's turning a profit now, which it never did before. So first of all, they now have about 90 or 80, more than 85 years of their lease left to run. So Australia are going to have to pay that out in the same way that they did to France when they cancelled a contract for submarines with France. They had to pay billions of dollars to France for their loss of that contract. They're going to need to pay billions of dollars to China. And I think the Chinese company ultimately will probably sit back and say, well, that's fine. We'll take the billions because we don't have to run this place. So there's no cost involved. But we will need to get all of the profit for the next 89 years paid back to us if you want to renege on this contract. There is a contract. There will be penalty clauses. There will be cancellation clauses in it. There will be all kinds of clauses. But Landbridge has been doing it properly. They have invested heavily, and they plan to get a return on their investment, which now they won't. So they'll take that to court, and the Australian government will have to pay. I don't know. It's probably going to be a few, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 billion for the next 90 years of loss of profit and loss of income from that port. What
Yeah, I
a state
mean,
of affairs.
as also Australia has to pay $380 billion for the submarines that it may never see from America.
Yeah,
That's another thing. So, yeah. And people don't really understand $380 billion for a country like Australia could be worth quite a few houses. If they say there's housing shortage over here, they can build
mm,
low cost effective housing for people, have suburbs, better schools, better healthcare facilities with that much money. But no, that money is going to be wasted. Uh,
mm.
yeah, so I don't think people realize how effectively that money could have been used if diverted away from weapons.
Yeah, it would have been nice, and all for what? I've yet to have anybody actually itemize to me what threat China poses to Australia or what threat China poses. There is a threat to the USA's economy. There is no question about that, and that threat is a threat to USA's national interests. But there's no, not national security, but national interests. There is no question that America now has divested itself of all of its manufacturing, many of its brains. Because a lot of the brains in America didn't come from America. They weren't Americans. They were people like yourself. There were people from China. There were people from India. There were people from all over the world going into America, studying up to PhD level and beyond, and then the research after that. And that was why America had the opportunity to be great, because they brought in the best brains from around the world and kept them, paid them well, kept them, and now they're prosecuting and persecuting them and sending them home. So there's a huge number. I mean, I don't know if anyone's calculated what the number is, but almost every week I see another headline in Chinese media that the the father of AI, the father of robotics, the father of, they all have these names, the mother of this. In China, they all get this name because they're seminal in this. They are really leaders in their field, and they're coming back from MIT or Harvard, or yeah, they're coming back. Why are they coming back? Because they don't get any research, they don't have any trust, and quite often they're under suspicion. It's not even like we don't trust you, it's we suspect you. We think you're doing something wrong. So they're coming back to China and they're taking up positions in universities here, getting the research funds and the grants that they need. And the next thing we know, China's got all the things that America could have had. What's going on? Why?
Yeah, because, and the other thing is there's a lot of military influence and influence of different other lobbies as well. So many researchers don't want to work with military. I mean, all this technology can be used for betterment of people, I guess.
Hmm.
So the last year, Google's AI lead, he came back to China. I mean, he's of Chinese heritage. That was a
Mm.
very big deal for America. I mean, he's considered one of the best when it comes to AI in the world, not just in America. And for him to go back to China, that was a very
Mm.
big deal. Yeah.
Oh, apparently the BrainCode team came from Harvard originally,
Yeah, they got funding from Harvard, initial
right?
funding from Harvard, and then they went back to China because China, you can in China, if you've got connections or if you have money, you can prototype and
Mhm.
experiment quickly because you've got the hardware, or you can manufacture hardware quite quickly over there.
Right.
That's the benefit of China. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about uh, the. I wanted to talk to you about the hate speech laws and the we kind of touched on it before. Uh, the accusation that China has no freedom of speech is kind of being turned around now. I've found, particularly this the Ai Weiwei thing has opened up a couple of uh, doors to discussion. I think Ai Weiwei made a very good comment. I think it might have been on CNN, where he said, "In China, you can have a big voice and you can change things. In the West, it doesn't matter how big your voice is, you don't change anything." And this kind of coincides with what Eric Lee said a few years ago. In China, you can't change the party, but you can change the policies. Do you think this is true of Australia as well because of what they're doing now, writing laws? They've written laws that make what I do illegal, believe it or not. I work in China and I promote China. I'm not going to hide this fact. I am pro-China because I've seen what they do. I didn't come to China pro-China. I have been converted to absolutely loving this country. I came to China hating it, to be honest. my first 8 months, I wanted to be out. All I wanted was get to the end of my contract and then go home, and home being Australia. By the time I got 6 months in, I was starting to realize, whoa, there's something different about this place. I kind of like it. I'm not ready to go home yet. And so I stayed here a little longer, and then I met my wife, and then the rest is history. So I ended up here talking about how good China is. And occasionally I'll get asked to write an article by Global Times or People's Daily or China Daily or one of these big publications in China that uses the English language. And I'll write an article. And because I'm writing an article for media, I get paid. I'm a journalist, albeit that I don't consider myself one. I'm a freelance journalist who works for pay. And who pays me? The Chinese government. Ultimately, the Chinese government do, even though each of these media outlets would say, no, 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 we're not government. They don't influence it all. Of course, they're owned by the government. They're state-owned enterprises. So therefore, I become an agent of foreign influence. So they've made what I do illegal, but they haven't made what Steve Bannon did to Clive Palmer illegal, because that was for America. It was the one side. Where are we going with these laws that restrict one side of a political scene? What's the word? The political environment. You can't speak about Palestine, but you can't criticize a Jewish person. You can't speak for China, but you can criticize China. Why am I allowed to criticize China when I'm not allowed to criticize the Jews? What's going on there?
I think so. The protests are still banned in New South Wales.
Yep.
Melbourne
It's
has
just for
small
temporary.
protests. Yeah, Melbourne has protests. I think Isaac Herzog,
Mm,
Israel's president, is coming to Australia.
mm,
So there are protests planned there, but they've banned it. So I'm not sure what the protesters are going to do. Uh, uh, but I guess I don't understand the laws that much, what laws they have enacted. But I was reading yesterday that those laws will be implemented in schools as well. But there was something more frightening even before that. Last year, I heard that they are trying to change the school curriculum in a way that it is positive towards Israel and Israel's creation. And coming from a colonial background where we fought settler colonists, British, uh, I can understand how changing history will be in favor of Israel in future generations, I guess. Uh, so that's the problem is there's no one standing up for what's right, I guess, anymore.
mm,
I think people were always very um, happy to side with Ukraine when Russia attacked Ukraine. But when the same thing happened in Palestine, everybody said, people who were saying that Russia is committing genocide in Ukraine, they took their statements back when genocide started happening in Palestine. They said, no, we were wrong. Russia was never committing. And those statements are on YouTube before
mm,
and after, that Russia is committing genocide. Oh, no, Russia is not committing genocide. And also Palestine, there's no genocide. So these things are happening. Maybe the laws are, I guess, are equally applied to Israel as well over here, or Israel lobby over here also. I'm not sure.
mm,
But certainly, of all the events that have been cancelled, Palestinian events have been cancelled more, I guess. And Palestinian journalists have been, or journalists who were trying to bring out the killings of Palestinians, they have been suppressed. They have been fired as well.
mm.
So I haven't seen any. And if you read uh, corporate newspapers, or if you look at the media, you mostly get the stories that I think uh, probably Israel wants you to get over here.
Yeah, the way I'm viewing it from here, and I'm only viewing part of it. I'm only seeing I mean, I'm not in Australia, so I'm only seeing what the media allows me to see and what I can hear talking to people who are in Australia, like yourself. But the way I'm viewing it, it looks to me like anything that is a Jewish festival, Jewish celebration, Jewish party, Jewish event is either being cancelled or it's being very, very secure, which is the obvious thing to make it very secure. If it's being cancelled, it's being cancelled for security reasons. But if it's a Palestinian event or a pro-Palestinian event, it's being cancelled to be sensitive to the Jews. From the day that, I mean, we can go all the way back to 1947, 1948, when the Palestinians started to be occupied, and then we go through 67, or all the different events that have happened. Not going to list them all here historically. There are a lot of events that have happened to the Palestinians, and there has never been laws to protect the sensitivities of the Palestinians. So what's going on there? Why don't we have laws to protect the sensitivities of everyone? Is that not possible? There are no laws to protect the sensitivities of Chinese. I can say whatever I want about a Chinese government, the Chinese people. If I'm in Australia and I get on a bus and there's a Chinese person there, you see this all the time, people being hateful towards those people. So you do get this anti-Chinese, you get anti is anti-Jewish, and you get that. You get anti-Palestinian as well. You get anti-Russian and you get anti-Ukrainian. I remember when Stan Grant on live TV asked a person to leave the audience because that person had said, "Well, there's no support for Russia. I believe that Russia were doing what they needed to do," or something like that. And he asked a question that was insensitive towards Ukrainians. It seems like you can ask whatever question you want as long as it fits the narrative. Is that the way it's going?
I think it is. Plus, I think with anti-China, I mean, Australian government has always been anti-China, except for a few leaders, I guess. I'm not sure why, because Australia is the largest, China is the largest trade partner of Australia.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why there's animosity. I can understand from Australia being part of the Five Eyes. America doesn't really want Australia to befriend China, but there's no harm in befriending China economically or trade-wise. Same with New Zealand as well, I guess, which is a smaller Australia. So most of these laws. So I've talked to quite a few people. I talked to CIA analyst Larry C. Johnson last week, and so the interview conversation is on my channel. He was very candid about it as well. But he talked about how the CIA is in decline and how, so they call it in America, they call it Zionism or Zionist, and that they have occupied the American government. They phrase it like that. And I can understand from his point of view. I think he had been a very proud spy or analyst. But now when he sees the condition of his country, you can see the sadness in his eyes. I've talked to ex-Zionists as well. The conversations on my channel, and they have told me horror stories of what has been done to Palestinians. I mean, a 16-year-old boy from West Bank, gasoline was poured down his throat and he was set alight because he wouldn't, give his house to Israelis. And West Bank is, again, occupied. But Israelis want all those illegal settlements there, and he was set alight, and video was made and circulated. So these things have been happening regularly. Fortunately, that
I'm
person.
losing your signal, Ali. To just bring this point up because I think this is very important. I've just lost you for a moment. I think we're getting you back now.
Let me know when you start.
There seems to be a signal problem now. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Your video is stuck.
Okay, I can basically hear you that you responded to that, but I your answer. So not all Zionists are Jews and not all Jews are Zionists. This is a very, very important point to make.
Yeah. So many Jews don't really agree with the genocide of Palestinians. So Rich Forer, he American Jew or ex-Zionist. I've talked to him twice. He also says the same thing, that Zionism. I know what Zionism is. I mean, I've studied coming from a colonial background, we understand how these phrases come about and
Mm.
what is done to weaponize these things. So Zionism,
Can we put a
you
link?
can go
Can
back
we
to
put a link
1800 and
to
yeah,
your channel? I will put one in the description, but for now, your channel is fintech, but I don't know
Finlogs,
exact name.
yeah, Finlog, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we can go back to the origin of Zionism as a definition in 1890s when it was first coined.
I'm losing signal here. I'm not sure if it's my end or your end. It appears to be okay, my end.
Let me know when you get the signal back.
Are you back, Ali?
Can you? Okay. Can you see me
Hello,
or hear
Ali?
me? Yeah.
Ah, got you back. Got you back. Let's hope that's okay.
So not sure what was the last thing you heard from me.
I wanted to put a link to your channel. Can we do
I'll
that?
try to see if I can copy it here. How do I comments? Is that where
Yeah,
I
just
go?
put it in the comments because I know your name is FinTech, but I'm not sure of the link there.
It says I'm connecting.
Right.
Ah,
Apparently on
uh,
YouTube, it's me that's breaking up, but Ali is not.
so maybe I'll send the link to you on WeChat. I can't seem to comment.
Okay,
So
send the link on WeChat and I'll.
yeah, and then you can put it here. Yeah. So I was talking about Zionism. I mean, we can go back to the origin of Zionism in 1850s, 1890s when the term was first coined. But I mean, obviously, it's going to be a very long talk. Uh,
Mm,
Anthony Lowenstein, he's Australian. He's also Jew. He's spoken against Israel. He's written books uh, exposing Israel's, uh, torture regime or the torture practices. There are many Jews who don't really agree with what Israel is doing. So
mm.
the problem is, what do we do now? How do we free Palestinians, and how do we end the apartheid? And uh, when I was talking to Rich Forer, the ex-Zionist, he also doesn't see any hope. And I think probably that's the end game. I think I see that. I'm just trying to copy uh, the link to my channel and send it to you. But the problem is,
Yeah,
there's no powerful supporter of Palestinians. That's the thing.
not
Uh,
really.
yeah.
And
So
anybody
the
who
end
does
game will be
become
very bad
powerful,
for Palestinians, and that's. I mean, they want basically Israel wants the land. They want the entire
mm,
region.
yeah,
So
I think
and
anybody who does support Palestine now is immediately declared as anti-Semitic, is immediately declared as anti-Zionist, immediately is what. Don't you believe that Israel is entitled to exist? That kind of thing. The allegations are made. Now, Upscrolled is actually a Palestinian-based, an Australian-based Palestinian set this up, I think. So yeah, this is good to see. But I wonder already. I'm not on Upscrolled, and already I'm seeing what I have seen of it is there's quite a few fake accounts there. There's not going to be any moderation, or maybe there will be moderation, but not censorship. That's a very clear definition that we need to find. Moderation and censorship are very different. You can moderate the hate speech, but you can't censor out the opinions. And
I've sent you the link to the channel. So anti-Semitism, again, it's a very different thing because we've endured all this settler colonialism. So Semitic is a linguistic and ethnocultural term. So people who used to live in the Semite region and spoke four languages: Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, and Amharic. So people in Palestine, now Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, part of Saudi Arabia. These were the Semites.
yeah,
So Palestinians are the native Semites. So it's actually what settler colonials do. So let's say when they went to Australia, they said There are no Australians here. No one lives here, so we can take the land. They
Yep.
call it, land belonging to no one. Americans did the same when they landed in America. They killed a lot of Americans and then said, "No, we are Americans now. You're not Americans." British did the same when they came to India, and you can see the parallels between what British did and what Israel is trying to do, weaponizing language. So any action against Palestinian is automatically anti-Semitic, right? But they don't want to say that because then it brings Palestinians into the fold as being native. So they don't want Palestinians to be considered as native. So in 1871, British enacted a law, criminal tribes law in India. So around 130 or 40 tribes were criminalized, and
Mhm.
anyone born in those tribes would be a criminal as well. Even a child would be a criminal, and those people were called anti-Indian people,
Wow.
mainly because they were rebelling against the British government. And
Because
then
they were born into that tribe.
born into that tribe, and those tribes were resisting the British government. And throughout history, in 1919, British enacted a law. It was, I think, anti-anarchy law, because the
Mhm.
word terrorism hadn't been invented then. Anybody fighting the British government would be an anarchist and be put to death. So what they did was they would bring people from villages, tie them in front of the cannon and blow the cannon and make everybody watch in circles. So they kill a
I've
lot of
heard of
us. I
this.
mean, one of the biggest systemic genocide has happened in India. 170 million plus of Indians were killed or let to die because of man-made famines, killings,
Mhm.
genocide. And so that's why people from my region, they don't really, we probably know more about settler colonialism and the impact that it does. So we don't
Mhm.
really fall into that trap. Plus, when Pakistan India was created in 1947, I think people from that time were hoping that, okay, there would be a Palestinian state as well. That didn't happen because they wanted Palestinians to be free from settler colonialism, British settler colonialism, but that didn't happen over there.
Yeah, I
So
think that was a United Nations declaration. There would be a two-state solution, and
yes,
China supports that and has done ever since the very beginning. Now, I was going to tell you a story. Let me just tap in. Thank you to Donat. I had a couple of very kind donations coming into here. So when you're in China, I owe you dinner. We're going to
that's
cover the
okay. That's
dinner.
fine.
We're going to cover the dinner. I was going to tell a story today. Many of my followers know that I used to be a police officer in the UK. I was not always as old as I am now. When I was 19 years old, I was walking the streets of London with a colleague. Because I was still learning beats. I was that new at the job. I was still learning beats. I was only 19 years old. And when you're learning beats, you always walk around in pairs with a more senior like a mentor. And the name that was adopted later on was tutor constable. So I had a tutor constable with me. And I'm walking along this road near the Royal Albert Hall. If people know Brompton Road, Royal Albert Hall. And I saw a car pull out of Hyde Park. The gates to Hyde Park are there. Now, obviously, the gates are open. You're allowed to drive around and through Hyde Park on the roads at certain times of the day, but they used to close them at 11 o'clock at night. But this was 10 o'clock in the evening, something like that. And I saw this car come out and it turned right, and that's a no right turn. And the guy I was with was a guy called Bob Milam. Bob says to me, "That's a no right turn there." And I said, "Yeah, I know that." And he said, "Well, let's stop that car, and you can give him. We didn't give tickets. You can process him." That was the word we used, process. You can process this guy, and that was going to be one of my very very early tickets, infringements, because there was no such thing back then as getting a ticket. You had to write a process book. So I had these books in my pocket, and they're all numbered books, and you have to sign out a certain number of them every day, and you sign them back when you've used them. So they get signed back in when they're used. So they're all recorded. You can't start one and then scrap it. So the idea, you can't take a 20 pound bribe and scrap your book. You had to put it back and report why you had scrapped this book. So it was a little bit of an anti-corruption thing as well. So I had this book, and I pulled the car over, and it was a BMW. I think I had a 7 or 8 series, a very, very flash BMW. And the driver of it was a man called Jacob Rothschild. I had no idea at that time who Jacob Rothschild was. No reason for me to have known. I'm a 19-year-old, relatively new cop. I've been through training school. They don't mention who Jacob Rothschild is in the training school. So I just went through the process, and I reported him for turning right out of the park on a no right turn. And his wife was there. And I can honestly say I've never met such an, in all my years in the police, she was the worst I ever met. Oh, officer, how old are you? I'm not being reported by a child. All this because she was obviously older than me, and I looked young. I was only 19 years old. And, am I being reported by? Madam, you're not being reported at all. Your husband is. And I can remember asking him who was the registered owner of the car. And he said, my company. And I said, can you give me your company name? And he said, I told you it's my company. And I said, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. What's the name of your company? He said, it's a Rothschild Banking Incorporated. Oh, okay, right, Rothschild. I've never even heard of Rothschild Banking. That's how naive I was when I was 19 years old. And anyway, I finished the thing, let him go on his way. And about 10 minutes later, we had a two-way radio, and I got a call on my radio. And it said, return to station immediately. So 884A, yeah. Return to station immediately. So, what's going on? I think we might have lost. Yeah, Bob Milam, my buddy at the time, said something along the lines of, you're in trouble. So we walked all the way back to the station, which was down near Victoria bus station, 20 minutes. When I got back to the station, the station's process sergeant, who only worked Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, was there waiting for me. And he said, what the hell have you done? I said, what have I done? He said, do you know who you've just reported? I said, no, I have no idea. I had reported, in his words, you've just reported the man who owns England. And he's been on to the Home Secretary. The Home Secretary has been on to the Commissioner of Police. The Commissioner of Police has called our superintendent, and our superintendent has called me down to sort this out. So in the 10 minutes of the phone call and then 20 minutes of walking down to back to the station in half an hour, I knew that I was in deep trouble there, because I had reported the man who owns England. This is the man who tells the Queen what to do. That was how important Jacob Rothschild was in the United Kingdom back then. In the space of 30 minutes, he had his own infringement squashed, and he had me in deep trouble. So I never, ever forgot the Rothschild family name from that day onwards. And now I'm seeing it all over the news. So that was my story.
I think it's a very powerful and influential family.
Well, they don't come much more influential than that, to be able to call
Correct.
the Home Secretary and have an
Right.
infringement for. I mean, if it was anybody else, they would probably just pay the infringement. But this guy's so powerful, he doesn't need to do that.
Yeah, they don't want anything going against their name. So I think that's the mentality. Yes.
Yeah, someone's just mentioning something here. This is relative to where I live. Any idea what that's talking about?
No idea.
Okay.
No, I can't see the comments. Maybe I need to turn the comments on.
Okay. How do you feel about fried pigeon? Would you eat a fried pigeon?
I've had pigeon before. Yeah.
Okay. It's a speciality of where I live in Zhongshan.
Okay.
Someone said, I hope you're not a race traitor. It's got, yeah, I'm not a race traitor, Joe. Yeah, Joe's been in my comments a few times before. He's not very nice person sometimes. Easy enough to move. So yeah, we've been chatting for an hour. Is there anything else? We talked about Bannon, Palmer, Epstein, Rothschild, hate speech. Anything else we need to discuss before we finish off for the day?
Probably we've talked a lot. Yeah, a lot of topics, I guess. We can
We've
do
covered
another
a
one
lot of
later.
topics.
Yeah, yeah,
All right. Well, let's call it a day then, and
sure.
thank everybody. We got just shy of 100 viewers today, and
That's good.
considering it's only 8 o'clock in the morning here, I think somebody must be. Oh yeah, Trevor's wife is from Guangzhou, and homemade pork dumplings. My wife made pork dumplings yesterday, and wow, they're great. So we're going to get you some nice food when you come over here. And on that happy note, we'll say goodbye to everyone and thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you
No,
for the super chats, the people who made them. And Ali, thank you. Anybody who wants
no
to
problem.
find Ali, let's just put that back up again. YouTube.com at Finlogs. I thought FinTech. Okay, so anybody can find you there. And thank
Right.
you very much